Healer, what the hells are you doing? Yeah. What do you expect me to do? I can't keep up with the damage. Where's the damn tank at? What tank? I didn't hire one.
You what?
Oh! This was supposed to be a scouting job. Oh, 12, damn it all. Hiya! It looks like you folks could use a hand. Just where the hells did you come from? I was in the area and heard the commotion. I will handle this fiend while you see to your comrade. Quickly. Right. Just leave it to me. Gah! Hey there all. My name is Umbra, and that is just one of the many different types of moments a tank player lives for. Hopefully with better voice acting. See, unlike DPS or healers, tanks can be a one-man army. Not to say they can do everything on their own, but when the chips are down, a tank can finish the job even if they're on their own, pulling the rest of the party with them to the finish line. And when you'll finish, you'll see that duty complete message and smile, knowing you were the one to save the day, and save everyone in whole minutes of time. And you'll still only get 2 comms because healers just soaked them up for existing. But see, that's the thing about tanks for me. It's not about getting commendations or even being recognized for doing your job well. It's about taking charge and going toe-to-toe with the big bad, positioning the boss in the best spot, blocking huge amounts of damage, and supporting your healers in their endeavors to keep Jimmy Final Fantasy alive for longer than 3 seconds, as they somehow believe standing in the orange is good for you.
Where were the heals? Where were the heals?
And most importantly, it's about being the main character of the party, knowing that each and every member of the group is there for you and you alone, to help you throughout your journey through Eorzea. Okay, that's a joke. Tanks, despite what some people believe, hold an equal amount of responsibility and importance in any party. You are not the leader of the group just for existing. The content of the game is designed around tanks, healers, and DPS working together. Even if a piece of content is clearable without one of those 3, it doesn't devalue them as a whole. That said, the focus of this video is about tanks. What I like about each of them, their playstyles, and some of the core things you need to know about their abilities. Though before we start, I'd like to throw up a few terms I'll be using throughout the video. I'll also be primarily talking about each job at 90, and there is a spoiler for Heaven's Word in this video, so I suggest finishing that before watching. Otherwise, with all that intro out of the way, let's dive into tanking. Let's start with the classic tank, the Paladin. See, Paladin is the only true tank among the role types. Warrior and Dark Knight are typically DPS roles in the other Final Fantasy games, and Gunbreaker is a strange hybrid between tank and DPS. Paladins are master of defense, and well versed in holy magic, the true ideal of a stalwart shield holding their ground in defense of their comrades. This ideal is shown no better than in Passage of Arms, their Stormblood capstone ability. This beautiful skill is one of, if not the strongest party-wide mitigations in the game, that still provides some extra defense to the Paladin. Even the hardest hitting stack markers are reduced to dancer level damage when your team is under its embrace. But that's not the only party mitigation they have. Divine Veil is a decent party-wide shield that gets stronger the more health you have, and Reprisal is a moderate reduction to raid-wide damage, though this skill is a role action, meaning all tanks have it. I'm going to throw up the other role actions on screen now, as I won't be covering them in this video. Cover and Intervention are strong single-target defenses, with Intervention providing a shield and regen to the target, while Cover transfers all damage taken by the target to the user. Though that isn't to say Paladins only have party mitigation in their kit. Holy Sheltron and Bulwark are strong personal defenses that make Paladins hard to knock down. And finally, for the ultimate defense, they have the strongest invulnerability skill in the game. Hollowed Ground is an outright damage immunity to most attacks. You become the perfect wall for a solid 10 seconds. Though with a 10-minute cooldown, you tend to only use the skill once or twice at most during an instance. Long cooldowns being a staple of Paladin, unfortunately. All this to say, Paladins reduce a lot of damage, while still taking some big hits due to those long cooldowns. But luckily to round out their supportive toolkit, they have Clemency for healing purposes. And now before I go any further, allow me to say this about Clemency. Unless the healer is dead, or too busy playing Candy Crush, you never fucking ever touch this skill. It's the greatest insult to any healer. It's a sign you don't trust them to do their job. It's a sign you're afraid of death. It's a sign that you are a coward. However, if your healer is physically or mentally unavailable, it's a pretty strong heal, and can keep your party alive throughout a fight. Especially if you opt to spam your 1-2 combo to regenerate MP to spam the skill. So that's a worst case scenario, and it should be avoided at all costs. But that's part of the strength of a Paladin. Their versatility in a party and how easily they swap between a strong tank to a hybrid support, which is a large part of the appeal to Paladin in my opinion. On the notice strengths, their attacks are nothing to scoff at. With fight or flight buffing their damage by 25%, their magic phase is capable of dishing out big hits. Plus they slam giant swords on their enemies. It's sick as hell, and it's a great finisher to a burst phase. And each of the 4 hits of the combo give a strong heal that gives them even more survivability. Overall, Paladin is the essence of the Holy Knight. A dependable shield and strong arm their comrades can rely upon. Even if you are considered the NPC of tanks. Which, in all honesty, you kind of are. But you're like one of those unkillable NPCs in the Bethesda game. Just without the awful AI and clipping through walls. And at the very least, you'll be more unkillable than this guy.
Where were the heels?
Speaking of awful AI, let's get into Warrior. Because yeah, the memes are correct. This is the branded tank. The monkey brain ghost banana is perfect for a beginner's tank. These angry bundles of muscle are built around self-healing and sparing hard-hitting GCDs. Though despite that, you'll still have some of the lowest damage among the tanks. Although the variant and tank damage isn't that high, so don't worry about that too much. See, at first, warriors don't have anything amazing, their main combo providing some decent self-healing throughout the low levels. However, once they reach level 56 and complete their job quests, they become completely broken. Side note, please for the love of God do your job quest. If I had a nickel for every time I was in a party with a player missing a skill, I'd have enough money to buy an ultimate clear. But for real, warriors are absolutely disgusting in dungeon content, which is most of the casual experience. Raw Intuition and its upgraded version Bloodwetting are the strongest tank skills in dungeon packs, giving you a decent damage mitigation, but more importantly healing you for every GCD you land on the enemy. Bloodwetting isn't the only thing Warrior has going for it, however, unlike some other tanks. Equilibrium and Thrill of Battle offer great burst healing, with Thrill of Battle also increasing your max HP by the same amount it restores for a short time, letting you take bigger hits more safely. Nascent Flash and Shake It Off are Warrior's unique party support skills, where Nascent Flash will share Bloodwetting's effects to another player you choose, letting you heal an absurd amount of HP between the two of you, and Shake It Off being their party-wide shield similar to Paladin's Divine Veil. However, its shield is based on the HP of the party members it's applied to, rather than the HP of the warrior. Though it also applies a small regen, giving each one a slightly different use case. But support abilities aren't why I play warrior. No, there's only 2 reasons why I play warrior. First is that it's absolutely brain dead, and is quite literally the equivalent of slamming your head into a keyboard for 10 minutes and putting yourself into coma, before waking up to find out you completed the duty. Sort of like when you're driving to a familiar place, and once you arrive, you realize you blacked out the whole time. But the second reason is the thrill of playing it so close to the edge as warrior. See, all these strong heals would be wasted if you were at high or even half HP, meaning you only get the best use out of them by playing limbo with your health bar, letting yourself get lower and lower, using as little mitigation as possible before finally popping Bloodwetting and letting it rip. See, if your healers aren't worried that you're even paying attention to your screen, then you aren't playing the job right. And once again, their invuln skill perfectly encapsulates this playstyle. Holmgang could be considered the weakest invuln, as it offers no immunity to damage or any way to restore health, only preventing the warrior from falling below 1 HP. However, this trait allows warrior to get the maximum output from their healing skills. Plus, with it having a 4-minute cooldown, it can be abused in dungeons and trials multiple times to make the hardest mit checks a breeze. And while warrior has a pretty basic set of attacking skills, it doesn't mean they aren't strong or flashy. Felcleave and Inner Chaos are huge hits that you save up during filler, and let out as many as you can during your burst phase. Alongside Inner Release giving you 3 free charges of Felcleave. Boy, do I sure fucking love hitting the same button up to 7 times in a row. So just remember to grab some aspirin to cure the headache debuff you'll gain whenever you decide to play warrior. and go out there and grind your enemies to literal dust. Also, Primal Rend. There isn't much to say, just fucking look at it. But something I do have a lot to say about is my personal favorite tank. The Swift Bodyguard with an itchy trigger finger. The Silver Blade that dances across the battlefield, slicing through their foes one by one, all while providing support to their allies. We have the objectively best tank, the Gunbreaker. You see, Gunbreakers exude one key aspect that separates them from the other tanks. They go fast and eat ass. Gunbreakers are a tank and DPS hybrid, which basically boils down to them having a slightly more complex DPS rotation, while still needing to make use of their weaving windows to mitigate damage, before they get obliterated by the boss's "will kill you if you don't mitigate this" attack. But for me, that's why it's so fun to play Gunbreaker, especially for any parts of the fight where a boss is absolutely mowing me down while I'm trying to do my burst phase. Being forced to not only move for mechanics, but also weave mitigation while still keeping up a solid DPS rotation makes me feel like I'm playing Dante from Devil May Cry, just fucking continuously swapping between different styles for the whole fight, all to build up your style ranking just to hear that incredible "smoke is sexy style" as you finish your enemy off. Hell, they even have Royal Guard! But speaking of Royal Guard, let's get into some of their skills. Compared to Warrior and Paladin, Gunbreaker offers very little in party support. Party Light is a decent reduction in magic damage to the party, but doesn't do anything extra. Aurora is a fairly strong regen that can be thrown out to other players. In all honesty, Healer's healing output is so strong, it's hard to notice the skill, even when given to a weaker class. Harder Corundum, however, is a strong mitigation and heal that can be given to other players if you know you won't need it for the next 25 seconds. They also have Camouflage, a unique skill that grants an increased parry rate while also giving a basic damage mitigation. It's nothing flashy, and I hate to say, I kinda just forget it exists sometimes. And does that make me a bad Gunbreaker? Who cares? Their Invuln Super Ally is also one I don't tend to use very often. Don't get me wrong, a 6-minute cooldown and 10 seconds of damage immunity are nice. Like Warrior, it wants you to play Limbo with your health bar when using this, and that's quite a lot riskier when you're already having to weave so many skills together. That said, if you can coordinate it with your team, or even just tell your healer you're going to use it before a trash pool, it usually works out fine. But mitigation and support aren't the appeal of Gunbreaker. No, if I wanted to be useful to my party, I'd go get the NPC stare. Gunbreakers are about speed and damage, blitzing through your enemies until none are left standing. And their arsenal of GCDs and OGCDs make this all apparent. Sonic Break and Bow Shock are hard-hitting dots, with Sonic Break totaling over 9,000 potency of damage. Blasting Zone is a quick weavable skill that delivers a moderately strong hit that comes up every 30 seconds. Also on a 30-second cooldown is your Gnashing Fang combo, 3 attacks back-to-back that total over 1,300 potency, and that's not even including their Stormblood Capstone ability, Continuation, that gives you an additional attack to weave after each of the 3 main ones. All 6 of which total for over 2,100 potency in only 3 GCDs worth of time. And finally, on top of all of that, they have Double Down, a 1,200 potency attack that has one of the coolest animations in the game. But don't forget to take all this damage
even further beyond
by using No Mercy, a skill that gives a 20% increase to all damage, that you want to ensure you include all these hard-hitting skills under. Just the skills I've mentioned here can total over 6,660 potency of damage when under No Mercy, let alone any raid buffs you'll be receiving from your party. Needless to say, Gunbreakers hit hard, and I'm not even mentioning its filler skills and gap closers that help rack it up even more damage. A Gunbreaker is the only choice for players that want to feel pressured during fights to perform their best, while still delivering a truckload of damage. And to close out this section, let me just say I fucking love the Gunblade. I don't care how stupid it is, I don't care how unpractical or absurd it looks. Gunblades are fucking cool, and I will not hear any slander otherwise. I mean, just look at the first guy to ever use a Gunblade, Leon. Or Squall. Okay, I don't actually know a lot about this guy, but he tried to murder Sora from Kingdom Hearts, so that makes him pretty alright. Murder is actually an appropriate topic when talking about the final tank, because the devs have murdered all identity for this job, and I'm pretty sure they would kill everyone who plays it if they were given the chance. That's right, we finally made it to the Dark Knight. In truth, I have very little understanding of Dark Knight. I leveled it to 90 and got a nice piece of glam for it, but never really touched it afterwards unless I'm just memeing with friends. Even when getting footage for this video, I didn't walk away with a much better understanding of it. Is what I was originally going to say. However, as I started playing with it more, something just clicked, and during Trials and Raids, I actually like it. It's got a bit more going on rotation-wise than something like Warrior, and to be honest, the jank that we'll be discussing soon was actually kind of fun in a weird way. In dungeons though, it's still really awkward to use and requires more thinking than any other tank combined, and considering the quality of some healers I've seen in dungeons, the only thing I'm thinking about when playing Dark Knight is how much I wish I was playing any other job. But for now, let's just dive into some of their skills and see what it has to offer beyond Suffering and Edge. Support-wise, they offer Dark Missionary and Oblation. Dark Missionary being a 10% mint to magic raid-wide damage, and Oblation being a single target 10% mint. Thrilling. But while their party support is lacking, they at least have strong personal mitts, like Dark Mind. Yeah, Dark Mind. Real fucking useful. Okay, for real though, they have without a doubt the strongest tank cooldown in the game. The one and only, the Blackest Night. Doesn't really make up for everything. Like, a 25% shield every 15 seconds sounds amazing on paper, but in reality, it's just a drag to use in anything that isn't extreme or higher. The issue is the resources you have to spend to use it. It costs 3000 MP to use, and so does one of your strongest attacks, Edge of Shadow. However, when using the Blackest Night, if you're able to break your shield, you get a free charge of Edge of Shadow. A seriously good trade-off for using your skill correctly, but if you don't break the shield, you throw away 460 potency for nothing. Seriously, Dark Knights are the only tank that are punished for not maximizing the use of their spammable cooldown. And since Dark Knights were also the only tank to not receive a buff to their spammable in Endwalker, it makes it even more apparent how lacking this skill is. Not quite as lacking though is their attacking skills. Edge of Shadow mentioned earlier is a strong OGCD that also grants a 30-second damage buff that can stack up to 60 seconds. Make sure to keep this up at all times. Carve and Split and Shadowbringer are also strong OGCDs that you want to ensure are used under raid buffs, but be aware you can't use Shadowbringers until your damage buff is up, though this should really never be an issue with proper play. Blood Spiller is their Fell Cleave equivalent that you want to spam just about as much during your burst phase, and Living Shadow is a dot. Just make sure to have enough gauge for it every 2 minutes so you don't drift it to the abyss. Abyssal Drain is a skill you only want to use in AoE, as it shares a cooldown with Carve and Split. It does okay damage, but more notably, it's your only form of self-heal in a trash pack other than their invuln. Their invuln being Living Dead, a skill that is better than it used to be, but can still cause you to get accidentally griefed by any healers not paying attention. So, all dungeon healers. But the easiest way to explain it is if you die while Living Dead is up, you enter a sort of zombie state, where you need to heal the equivalent of your max HP in order to not drop dead as soon as the timer expires. In AoE packs, this is easy as you gain a 1500 potency self-heal on any GCDs landed. What makes this awkward is that if you do not tell a healer or they don't notice you have Living Dead up, they may just dump all your resources to keep you alive as soon as they see your health drop, wasting Living Dead's good effects, and since they probably don't have as good as resources now, there's a good chance you'll die. Now, there's a bit more nuance to Living Dead than that, but I'll leave that for any Dark Knight specific guides out there. Their final skill of note is Salted Earth, a ground AoE that deals damage over time, so try to keep enemies inside of it. Also, pressing the skill again at level 86 will deal extra damage, so do that. Alright, I know I've just been shitting on Dark Knight after saying I kinda liked it. I think that just sums up the Dark Knight experience. I only started playing in Endwalker, so I'm not really sure what the job was like before. Sure, I can look up videos and old skills, but without actually being able to play it, I'm left with this feeling that the job is just alright. Its opener and burst are extremely strong for sure, and if you like the dark edgy vibes, it's your only choice for tanking. But otherwise, the job itself feels like a clone of Warrior, and when you're just doing your filler, you're left feeling kinda hollow. Maybe that's intentional. Either way, I'm walking away with my time with Dark Knight, having enjoyed it more than I initially did, but also hoping it gets some much needed love and care in Dawntrail. But with all that said, I think we've reached the end of this little review. I just want to make it clear, I really do like Dark Knight, and I hope to get better with it in the future. It's just easy to poke fun at. It was actually the job that kind of got me into the game, and so when I found it to be lackluster, I was pretty disappointed. Going back and learning it properly this time has been a good experience, and much like video making, I know I have a lot to learn. This has taken a lot more out of me than I was expecting, but reaching the end here is a really good feeling, which I think is an important lesson in all things. Even if you struggle with something at first, whether it's playing a job or learning new skills, you can overcome them as long as you stay persistent. And by the time I get this video up, I'll likely already be working on my next one. It's an idea I had before I even started making stuff, and I'm excited to show you all the final product. But for now, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And until next time we meet, take care and safe travels.